Well, this is the one we've all been waiting for, the gold medal match between New Caledonia and the hosts, Solomon Islands. Hello, welcome to DNQ Football. Ryan, this is it. This is what we've all been waiting for. This is, dare I say, big us up a little bit here. The matchup that we predicted in this final.
Is
We
it?
haven't had a full catch-up since the semis. Did they go as you predicted? So it was obviously 2-0 to Solomon Islands against Fiji, 1-0 to New Caledonia against Vanuatu. No real surprises there, I wouldn't say.
No. What did we predict for that? I'm pretty certain of scoreline, though, so we definitely predicted those two winners. I think I predicted Solomon Islands 2-1.
You
which is
did. I predicted
close.
4-1.
You predicted 4-1. And then in the New Cal game, I think I was 2-1 or 2-0. So we were close with that, weren't we,
We were
actually?
close. Yeah.
Bloody hell, the accuracy.
We are good.
We're bloody good here, aren't we? What was your question?
Nothing unexpected, essentially. Yeah,
No,
we weren't
exactly.
quite bang
Yeah,
on. But,
no, exactly, mate, exactly. So yeah, this sort of the semi-final and then the bronze final, and now the final that we're here to talk about, the gold medal match. It's kind of gone as we'd thought, I think, mate. And in fact, just before we hopped on, we were quickly talking about how it's quite cool that they do the 11th place and the 9th place matches and etc. so that these teams get more than just the two group games that we initially feared that they would at the group stage match. And so yeah, we've talked about almost how the tournament has kind of come together and how the 12 teams will end up being ranked. And it's not too far off what we probably predicted or mentioned at the start. Now I know some of the teams are quite easy to predict, haven't they, if they've not played for the best part of 4 to 5 years. But it does all come to a crescendo on the 2nd of December as Newcal, as you've already outlined, mate, take on the host Solomon Islands. Now, one of the things that we spoke about in the first video was that the Solomon Islands have never won gold at the Pacific Games in football, and how would that affect them? So they've got to the final, and I think this is now the biggest test of them all. And I think, is it fair to say, mate, outside of New Zealand, these are the best two Oceania teams currently in current form?
I think you've got to go off current form. I think Solomon Islands, you could probably say, have arguably been the second best for the best part of a couple of decades now, behind New Zealand. New Caledonia, they're in this weird vein of form that we weren't really expecting before the MSG Cup, which of course they hosted and came runners up. You are looking at the top two in that tournament,
Yeah,
of course.
exactly that. Yeah.
Fiji are in and around it, but I think it's between Fiji and New Cal for sure regarding sort of who's the third best placed team in the region, but the second best after New Zealand. But I think you have to go off of recent form, the MSG Cup, and how they've performed in this tournament, and say at the minute, New Caledonia, with the exception of Solomon Islands in the MSG Cup, they're winning every test that's put in front of them. And the Solomon Islands, as they have been for a long time, and particularly with this current squad, are probably, the second best team in the region for sure.
Yeah. So how do we now? Just we touched on that MSG game where Solomon Islands did pip New Cal to that title with a 1-0 victory. How do we see this one going, my friend? Similar vein?
I think it's difficult to say that it's going to go completely differently given the proximity between the two matches. They were close together. There's nothing in this tournament that's made me think differently than before. The Solomon Islands, they, after the first group game where they only beat Samoa 1-0, I was a little bit like, ugh. But Samoa have proved, that's exactly what I was like, ugh. But Samoa have proved themselves to be, not a pushover.
Yeah, where did they come in the end, Samoa? They did pretty well.
Yeah, they did well. Of course, they beat American Samoa 10-0. And then, of course, in their placement match, they had the walkover win against the Cook Islands.
Oh, yeah. So they lost to Tahiti, but they only lost to Tahiti 2-1 as well, which was close. And then beat the walkover against Cook Islands, so they came 7th. So that's pretty good, isn't it? I guess, when we first saw that 1-0 win for Solomon Islands, match day 1, we were a little bit like,
exactly.
But yeah, Samoa have ended up being probably better than we imagined. Sorry to interrupt you there, my friend.
No, that's all right. But then, you look at the fact that they beat Fiji 2-0, and those two scorelines don't really match up. You know, they beat Fiji by more than they beat Samoa, and of course, in between those games, they had that comfortable win against American Samoa, who, of course, now we know are bottom of the pile in terms of the teams in this region in this tournament. But I do think that one thing with the Solomon Islands, not more than New Caledonia, but probably because the group was easy and then they had the test with Fiji, is they've at least shown that the easy group didn't negatively affect them, because a 2-0 win over Fiji is a great result on any day. I think it's especially good that Leai and Lea Lafa got a goal under their belts respectively, because they've obviously had Olarubu get a lot of goals himself, but it's good to have some of the players that you'd expect to get on the score sheet do so. So they've got a little bit of confidence coming into this game. Because I think if Rafa hadn't got a goal throughout the whole tournament, considering that obviously they played against Samoa, he didn't get any minutes against AmSam, and then they played against Fiji, he'd have probably been feeling a little bit glum. But he can go into this final knowing that he can help his side create history and, of course, win gold. So from a Solomon Islands perspective, nothing that's particularly shocked me. And New Caledonia, I still feel like I'm not surprised by their scorelines, because we predicted them to beat Vanuatu, but they still went out there and got it done. And I think you've got to commend them in that. They drew with Papua New Guinea. They beat Vanuatu. You know, those are the two tough tests that they've had, and they've overcome them. And that's why, at a minimum, they're going to win silver.
Yeah. Sorry, did you say they drew with Papua New Guinea?
Am I getting it wrong? Am I thinking of the wrong group?
Yeah, no, Newcastle, they beat Cook Islands and
sorry, no, you're right. They were in. I'm thinking of Vanuatu. They were
Vanuatu, yeah.
They were in the easy group, actually. I'm thinking of Vanuatu. So really, from a New Caledonia perspective, it's similar to Solomon Islands. So yeah, scratch
Similar
what I just
journeys.
said. Yeah, similar journeys. And then, of course, you know, their first real test coming in the semi-finals against Vanuatu, who had drawn with Papua New Guinea.
Yeah.
And of course, they overcame them to get into the final.
Yeah, I still, you know, part of me's thinking, is what happened in the MSG going to flip on its head? And, you know, where Solomon Islands went to the tournament that was hosted in Newcastle and won it against them in the final day. Are Newcastle going to do exactly the same to Solomon Islands, go to their backyard and nick the gold medal from them in front of probably will be a packed out attendance at the National Stadium? So, but even though Newcastle are improving, I think I think I'm just rinsing and repeating what I've said basically throughout the tournament. I think the Solomon Islands are, as we've already said, second best in this region, and I think that they're going to go. I'd be surprised, mate, if they didn't win this game with the attacking threat that they've got. Lea Lafa, Rafaleai, Orabulu, and then I'm just looking at the team that they had out in the last game, where you've got Kamasi, Alec, Peter, and then Mango and goal. Just the names, and then to be fair, David Super, Marlon Tahio. I don't know those names, but the rest of the team, you know, when you've seen a team play more than enough to know the quality that they've got. And as we've already spoken about the New Caledonia team, they're bringing through some new players with some old experienced heads. Cesar Ziola, we mentioned him in the last video. Rocky Niakine between the sticks. They've got some reliable, good players at this level. I just am more into this Solomon. I just would say that the Solomon Islands team are just better. Will they step up to it on the big moment? I hope so, and I think that they will. Is probably my summary, mate.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, no disrespect to New Caledonia, but I hope so too, because I think that this is a side that deserves to make history. I don't know the full detailed history of the Solomon Islands teams, but it's got to be one of the best teams they've ever had in terms of certainly a starting 11, and we see more and more some players on the bench as well. I just feel like it's going to come down to nerves and confidence ultimately, because I do think that Solomon Islands are better than New Caledonia. But what New Caledonia have, which the Solomon Islands don't have, is almost the free reign. They're the underdogs in this game. They know that really they might as well just go out and give it everything they've got, because what have they got to lose? Whereas for the Solomon Islands, I feel like there is that added pressure, that there is probably an expectation now that they do win gold. I do think that the Solomon Islands are, whilst a very good side, not as defensively strong as some of the other teams that we've seen. They certainly like to attack an awful lot, and I think that, I always say it in these games, and it's because it rings true. The opening goal is so important, and I think that from the underdog's perspective, from New Caledonia's perspective, if they avoid conceding in the first half hour and find themselves 1-0 up, maybe even at half time, that's when the nerves will set in potentially. But the Solomon Islands, they got over the first game nerves when they scraped through, debatably, against Samoa, and I think that they will scrape through again. I don't know if it'll be a 1-0 scoreline, but I think that Solomon Islands have enough to get the gold medal. So we're in violent agreement.
Violent agreement indeed. Yeah, they came runners up in 91, 95, 2011. Can they now at last secure that gold medal spot? Mate, we've got so much to talk about. Not probably anything else for this video, but we've got so much to talk about in our what we describe as like our podcast episode / longer form video that we like to do once a month. And one of them today, something that I would love to talk about with you more, is these Oceania teams that have now played, that are now entering back in the FIFA World Rankings, and the hilarity of some of those rankings that have been given, especially American Samoa. Now, for those of you that don't know, just simply Google it, because American Samoa have somehow found themselves in the top. They're in the, what is it, 188? Anyway, let's not go into it. Yeah, let's not go into it too much. But what I'm throwing out to you, our wonderful viewers, if there's any topics, questions, or queries that you've got that you think would be a wonderful talking point for Tom and I to discuss on our longer form podcast, the kind of video that we're going to do at some point across the next week, throw a comment down there. We would much appreciate it. Anything else to add, Tom?
Scoreline prediction.
Oh, yes. Sorry. You might have to bleep that. Sorry. I'm going to go New Caledonia 0, Solomon Islands 2.
Okay.
You were going to go the same, weren't you?
No, I'm going to go New Caledonia 1, Solomon Islands 2.
Nice. Okay.
So we're both back in the Solomon Islands. I back New Caledonia to score. I think it'll be quite a tense and nervy game, and I think the first goal is very important. But yes, as Ryan says, get comments down what you want us to speak about in our podcast episode. There is so much from around the world of football, but anything you want to chuck in, we will discuss it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you next time.